it's your thinkers, it's your writers, it's your stories that carry you. And if we don't tell the good stories, we will be in other people's stories. And they may not know us, and might keep representing us the way they want. So culture has to play that role, right? And that's where you retrieve from your own culture, right? You go to Ghani Khan, right? You go to Khushal Khan Khattak, right? And you introduce, you weave that into English literature. And that's how you are introducing your own tradition in another language, so that the person who reads it becomes curious about, okay, what is this culture, what are these verses, right? What are these wisdom words from this culture? um, and that's kind of my answer to that, that you need people who don't just go and advocate for Pakistan or propagandize for Pakistan, but who are there. And when people look at them, they see Pakistan. So I've been here for 25 years, right? I've interacted with thousands of people. If I had stayed in Pakistan and stayed on the right path, maybe I would have become a general in the army because I was a career officer. That would have been my total contribution. Here, every time I walk into a class, Pakistan walks into a class. Every time I publish something, Pakistan publishes something. So you create a catalog of your culture and its representation, right? So what is better? We shooting Ghaznavi and Shahab and whatever tank we are building, does that make us better in the world? Or a few poems by Faz Ahmad Faz and a few poems by someone else introduced to the world, Ahmad Faraz and others, right? What lasts longer? These things, right? ये तो सियासतदान और ये जो मेरे जर्नैल भाई हैं, right? They are my course mates, right? They'll come and go. No one will remember them. But we still remember Khushal Khan Khattak. We still remember Ghani Khan, right? We still remember Ahmad Faraz, Faz Ahmad Faz, right? Iqbal, Ghalib, because art lives on and on and on. So that's the imperative, to produce literature that reaches the world, right? I think. The thing is, where does identity come from, right? Now, if you have a religious explanation of it, which you have, my Muslim friends have, my Christian friends have, then you believe that it's pre-inscribed, right? Whatever you have to become, you are. But even in the deep religious interpretations of self, there is room for us to change ourselves. So what kind of identity do you want to have? I mean, what would you have? A more expansive identity, right? An identity that can take difference and accept it and respect it, right? Anything that impedes that process is constricting your identity, right? Making you weak, right? A strong identity is not having three principles and living by them. A strong identity is an identity that can handle ambivalence, that can handle doubt, right? And still believe in certain core things and keep doing good in the world, right? So the question of identity then is that it's not natural, you construct it, and that you can constantly keep working on it to make it better. Religion helps in defining who you are, absolutely does. It gives you a sense of right and wrong. But you can be a wonderful human being without following any religion too, if you just be nice and generous to other people, right? Yes and no. Yes, in a sense that, after all, they're telling stories of Pakistan, right? No, in a sense, because they are not really into. Okay, so many of them bought into this idea that they have the artistic license to write whatever they want, right? Which is okay by me, but what I would like them to do better is to know that words have consequences, right? And that if they are going to write a story about a town in Sindh, right, or a town in KPK, it cannot just be a story of just torture and death. There have to be redeemable qualities in people, in fiction, because otherwise you're perpetuating the mythologies of the conservative West, right? The right wing mythologies. So, yes, they are representing it because at least they are telling the stories, right? And they are introducing Pakistani history and culture to the world. And no, because I would hope for them to be more cognizant of the context within which their works are read, right? But on the other hand, there is never a true representation. A representation is always an approximation of truth, right? You can't really capture the essence of a culture and make it speak, right? I mean, think of it, an act of decoloniality, if you go by Fanon, the idea is that what is considered the top must be dismantled and recreated, right? So decolonization of literary studies in your department then would be to deprivilege British literature, to deprivilege English literature, and put it in conversation with your native literature, with literature from your part of the world. That would be decolonizing the English department. If you look at your curriculum and what you are required to study and take, you can already tell whether it's the British era mandated syllabus or has it been decolonized, right? But here is the trick. To really decolonize knowledge, you cannot do it from a little cave in your own self. You have to go learn the languages and the works of all the other people. If you want to decolonize British literature, go read it. You want to decolonize American literature and theory, go read it, because then you will know where the debate is, right? If you don't know where the debate is, how will you enter it and insert your own voice, right? So my recipe for me, myself, and my students has always been develop an expertise, right? Get to know what is being produced, where the debate is in your field of study, and then mobilize your own knowledge, your own culture, the languages that you know. And when you do that, you have a repertoire that no scholar can match, right? Because you have something, it will take them years to learn. I mean, I mean, think of me. I'm not even a brilliant scholar. I'm not from an Ivy League school or anything. But when I write or teach, right, I'm pulling from the Western tradition, which I have read. I'm pulling from the American tradition, which I have read. Western philosophy, which I have read. And then when I feel like it, I go to Al-Kindi, I go to Al-Farabi, right? I go to Ibn Khaldun, right? I go to Farsi, right? I go to Arabic, I go to Punjabi, right? I can pull sources from here. I can quote in one essay a verse of Bulle Shah, a verse of Hafiz, right? And then maybe Tennyson, right? How many people can do that in the West? Other than top-notch Orientalist scholars, not many people have a repertoire like that. That's your wealth. That's how you decolonize English studies, right? Your professor should not be telling you you can't write an honors thesis, right, on Khushal Khan Khattak unless it is translated into English. They should be telling you it doesn't matter. You know Pashto, read him, translate him yourself, put a footnote there which says, my translation. That's decolonizing English studies, right? or anything else that you do. When I was writing my dissertation, there was only one English text that I discussed in it. And that wasn't even a literary text. It was a 1888 book, The Indian Mussalmans by W.H. Hunter. Rest, there were Urdu novels. There was a Farsi Abbiti of Ghalib, Dastanbu, right? But my professors had no problem with that because it's like, yeah, you're a post-colonialist, you can do that. So that's decolonizing knowledge, infusing it with your own, but first mastering the skills of the discipline itself so that you know where you're entering the conversation. How does the change start, right? Your students get together and say, what is it that we can change within our department as students, right? What would make our department more inclusive, more democratic, more helpful to each other, right? Build your own little alliances, right? Where you get to help each other, right? And then write, write your life, respond to whatever is happening to you, like to your culture. But if there is something that needs changing and challenging in your culture, do that. I mean, think of it. In 1930s, right, Bacha Khan convinced Pashtuns to come and sit in the streets of Peshawar, right? Thousands of them. And be kicked and be spat at and abused and not say a word. Right? He did that. His people did that, Khudai Khidmatgars and all. What could be like more difficult than that? Right? But I agree that there are powers beyond our control, right? That we cannot fight. When that happens, we don't surrender, right? We just find whatever little we can do in life, which enables more people, helps more people, and you will see, you will feel better, and things will start changing. Yeah.